was really into like the harder stuff. I was into Pat Travers and Molly Hatchet for a while. And then I'd go, it was all over the board because I'd get into Kansas. I was really into Kansas for a while. And then it was Ted Nugent and, Mario Speedwagon and Styx and all those. Then I started getting into the guitar players more, and, the Toto thing with Lukather and all those guys.
Matt Woolley Podcast.
Our guest today is my friend and fellow musician, the one, the only, the man.
Just my last name.
Robert Mann. Thank you for being here, Robert.
Well, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being on the Matt Woolley Podcast. For those that are tuning in, please like and subscribe. We love those likes and subscribes, don't we, Robert?
Yes, we do. And you're going to be international star before long.
Oh, here you go again. That's true. All right, so who is Robert Mann? Well, so for clarity, on this show, I normally just use a LinkedIn list to go by. And we're going to go for this, Robert, because I asked Robert, I said, so give me your job. And he goes, well, what jobs? I said, just give them all to me.
I've done everything but kill bugs for a living.
So
I'm not joking.
I know. I can see the list. We're going to go through it. And I'm just going to ask you on some of these. Okay. Some I won't. Some are pretty much straightforward. So Robert Mann is a husband and father. We know that much.
Above and beyond everything else.
Right. I also know Robert as a guitar player and musician. That's where we met many years ago.
Yes.
I also know Robert as the owner of the Stadium Shoppe in Fayetteville, which we will talk about momentarily. But just quick plug, this is where I got this awesome apparel. For those, I wore it straight for Robert. It doesn't help. It doesn't hurt today that we're playing. This will air later, but we're playing Georgia today, right? Isn't that right?
We're praying for a win tonight.
We'll see. Yeah, we're hopeful. Fingers crossed. But we'll get to the Stadium Shoppe here in a minute. So I asked Robert to give me his career blueprint, by far, Robert provided me with the most detailed job list I've ever seen in my life. Robert is always known as the guy that's thorough.
Well, let me explain something. Everything on there, everything that I've done has, and I know it's a cliche, leads to where you are now.
Absolutely.
And I learned something from everything I've done.
100%.
I mean, literally changed, life-changing things, the decisions that had been made. Like one job, you lose a job, like the one of them I'll talk about here in a minute. But if I hadn't done that, then I wouldn't have ever gone back to college, And so, I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. That's it. That's what this show's about. So, for those that are just now listening, I think we're in episode 31, 32?
32 is a good number for me.
Yeah.
I like that number.
All right. I think you're 32. You might be 33, so don't hold it against me. But we've been doing this since late April 2024. And so the reason why I did this podcast was because, one, I know so many wonderful people, so it's great to hear their stories. Second one is, I hope we can pull some wisdom nuggets out of it, because all the people that I know are blessed to have a pretty cool journey. I think we all, as individuals, have a unique story, and it's great to kind of share those things and pull wisdom nuggets out of it, because let's face the facts, there's a lot of people out there that are doing a lot of influencing, but don't really have, much credibility to be influencing, in my opinion.
Understand.
So that's what this show's
probably
about.
in that batch.
We shall see, good sir.
Okay.
I doubt that's the truth. So let's just go through it, man.
All right.
So you said age 15 was your first job detailing cars for used car lots. So I had to jump in there too. So funny thing, I had a couple of small little stuff, being the small hometown guy that I was. But my first official job too was detailing cars. And I think I was 15. I was 15. And I worked for a body shop. And as soon as the cars got done, it was my job to make sure they looked spick and span so everybody felt good about the work. So
they bring us cars going on a used car lot. We detail them out.
Yeah.
And I was making like $1.10 an hour or something like
Wow. So what's the takeaway from that job? We're just gonna go through it since you said you
Okay.
learned something. What's the takeaway from that job?
that. It was my first job, and it was the first time that, you always remember your first job, and it was the first time you draw a paycheck.
Right, that's nice. That's always cool.
And it made me feel good to know that you worked for something and you got paid for it, and you earned it. In other words, and you start working on your work ethic before you even get your first job. But that's when you find out how good your work ethic really is. When you got a guy who is kind of a driver, so to speak. Stay busy. So
That's awesome.
that's just first job.
Well, I too was also a grocery store stocker.
Were you?
Yes, I did that for a short time. My knack was in waiting tables. So my first making money job was waiting tables. I did that for about 2.5 years, but I'd get burned out on it, and I'd find something else to do just for a little time. But then I always went back to waiting tables because I did have the gift of gab, and you can make as much in 2 days as your buddies were making in a week.
Yep.
So I like that. I like the fast money, and I could do it. So that's why I did it, even though I didn't necessarily always like it. But something to be said for grocery stocking too. That's not an easy work.
No, and you get to interact with a lot of people. Back then you used to carry the bags
groceries
out
after people.
Yeah. And that was always
Man, get over here and help this woman.
exactly.
I miss those days. I've said I just barely remember it. But I did come from a town that right when I was a little guy, they were still doing that. And I remember the outrage when people quit doing it.
Yep. Well, I was there long enough I wasn't there very long. That job didn't last very long. I was in high school. What do you expect?
Yeah, I got you, man. I got you. So let's go. Let's move forward.
Okay.
Warehouse worker, carpet magic, stream machine, carpet cleaner, repair.
So growing up, my dad built cars.
Okay.
I'm not talking about buy a car and hop it up. I mean, ground up, starting with nothing but a frame and taking two fenders and making one.
Okay.
Taking 3 doors to make one door.
Right.
And they were all like 32 Fords. They were like really hot rod cars. And so I was always mechanically inclined. I could do a brake job at like 12
Oh, wow.
on a car.
That's great.
So
Are you still mechanically inclined?
yeah, somewhat. I don't touch cars these days because
Too much.
you can't work on them now.
Right.
Anyway, that's a different story. So when I started in this warehouse, I was like pulling products to go out to different Safeway stores is what they were selling to, I think. And they realized that, there was this Carpet Magic steam machine where you clean your carpet with it. And there's a whole lot of them broken down. And I was like, what are you going to do with that stuff? And he goes, well, you need to find somebody to fix it. And I'm like, I'll fix it. So I took it over, and, like 15, 16 years old, I'm repairing steam machines for.
That's wow. That's awesome.
So,
But they're like, man, your gift. They're like, wow, all right.
Well, I did impress the boss. He was
Absolutely. Well, you're making him some money in a hurry is what you're doing.
taking old junk stuff.
Yeah, making it refabbing. Yeah, there's good work if you know how to refab something. That's awesome. So then you transferred to a cook at Western Sizzlin' and then McDonald's. You hit those stereotypical jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Where were you at that point? What age were you there?
I don't know. I was probably.
How did you go from repairing steam cleaners to cooking at Western Sizzlin' and then moving to McDonald's?
Well, the Western Sizzlin' had just opened. This was in Benton. This is in Saline County down in Benton.
The new hot popping restaurant.
It was.
Yeah.
And, I left the warehouse because classes, my high school got in the way, and that's. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But that Western Sizzlin' opened, and it seemed to be cool to do. So, what I learned from there is you don't ever use an oven mitt that has a hole in
it. Yeah, those are hard lessons learned.
Yeah.
McDonald's. So, what time era was this McDonald's? We talking 70s?
Oh, this would have been like 78.
Okay.
77, 78.
So really when McDonald's was really just getting its...
Well, they were already there.
No, they were a big deal, but as far... my understanding is McDonald's really started taking root early the 70s was really when McDonald's really started getting their stride.
Yeah, and it was the one in Benton, and, you learn there you got time to lean, you got time to clean. And that's their motto. I think every kid should have a job at McDonald's. Their first job should be something like that because they will Well, they did back then. I don't know what they're doing now. I sit 10 minutes in their drive-through now. And
not exactly fast food.
Well, and actually, drive-thrus didn't exist when I was doing that. Yeah,
it's like a walk-in.
The McChicken got introduced for the first time while I was there.
Oh, wow.
So I was 18, 17, something like that.
That's awesome.
Pretty good work ethic learning there.
So how do you transfer? The next one that you show is engine machinist.
Buddy of mine's dad had a machine shop, and they needed somebody to work there. And they were offering me more money, so I left McDonald's to go work as a machine shop guy.
Go with the money. Mm-hmm. And then you transferred to a gas station.
Well, and I'm not sure about that. It may have been the gas station before. I don't remember the order of some of these. I just find it so intriguing because you've worked a lot of different places, dude. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really cool. Like, okay, so McDonald's overnight maintenance. So what does an overnight maintenance guy do at McDonald's? So the machine shop shut down, and a buddy of mine was doing overnight maintenance, which what you do is you go in when they close, and you change out the grease vats, and you mop everything and clean everything.
Oh, you get it prepped for the next day.
Yeah, prepped for the next day. You pull everything up. You just keep the maintenance that needs to be done in the facility. You do that overnight.
Well-oiled machine ready to
while
go.
They're closed.
Yeah. That's before they probably... as late as they,
I'd go in when that was my first job living on what I called Asian time zone. You go to work at night after they close, and then you're out when the sun comes up when they open.
That's awesome. Okay, you said somewhere in there, I worked on a race car.
Oh yeah, that was my hobby. Like I said, I grew up working on cars. And there was a dirt track car, the I-30 Speedway. A lot of people, if you're watching down in Central Arkansas, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, you've been there?
Yeah. Well, I haven't been there. I know.
Well, they closed it down now.
Well, when I remember people talking about it, it's kind of a thing of the past. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, was it open in, it seems like it was open in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, it was open for a while. It just recently closed down the past 5 years.
Okay. I didn't know when it closed down, but I remember people talking about back in the day.
A buddy of mine had a race car, and, I'm a car guy, so we started working on that race car.
Nice. Did you ever get behind the wheel, or did you just work on it?
Never in a race. Yes. Never in a race.
It's your thing?
No, it was his car, and I was just working on it. You don't drive somebody else's car.
I got you. No, I got you. Okay, so you've been a truck driver for Southwest Arkansas Auto Parts.
No. It was Arkansas Parts Warehouse. But I drove down through Southwest Arkansas.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I drove from Little Rock to Hot Springs to Mount Ida, down to Glenwood, over to Dirks, sometimes sometimes DeQueen, then down to Nashville, sometimes Ashdown, then to Texarkana, then back up to Hope, Arkadelphia, Malvern, Benton.
What time frame is this?
Early 80s, probably 81, 83, somewhere in that range.
Is that when you worked for Coca-Cola?
No, I left that because that was a nighttime job, and I was really tired of living 12 hours behind everybody. Mm-hmm. I remember I was doing that when the Space Shuttle Columbia exploded the first time. I was still doing it, so it was 85 even. Mm-hmm. So I took another job driving the other parts truck over for a different company over in eastern Arkansas, over to Brinkley, Clarendon, and Stuttgart, because it was a day job.
Stuttgart. I said, Stuttgart.
Yeah. And then I met Elizabeth along that way, and we got married, and I took a job working for Coca-Cola because they paid more.
Nice.
And then they came in 2 years later.
Now, let's stop right there, because you were a young adolescent of the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
So
what I wrote down there was, the 80s were a blur.
The 80s were a blur.
Yeah.
Why were they a blur, Robert?
I was having too much fun. I graduated high school in 80, and I met Elizabeth in 88, and we got married in 89, and then Coca-Cola thing happened, and I decided, because I had big hair.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures. Skinny ties.
Skinny tie. Is that what you said, tie or
skinny
tights?
Ties. Yeah, skinny ties.
I didn't wear tights. But, I was an ex-big hair abuser.
So when you say big hair, there was a lot of big hair in the 80s. So
we're talking white snake hair.
White snake hair. But were you white snake in the music, or were you making cars music? What kind of music was Robert making?
What kind?
Yeah, I mean, you played, I know, because look, I know we know each other's backgrounds. Mm-hmm. The viewers and listeners do not. But
Well,
I've seen the pictures,
yeah.
and so I mean, what kind of music were you playing?
Back then, it was a lot of pop. But
That's
I was really into like the harder stuff. I was into Pat Travers and Molly Hatchet for a while, and then I'd go. It was all over the board because I'd get into Kansas. I was really into Kansas for a while, and then it was Ted Nugent and Mario Speedwagon and Styx and all those. Then I started getting into the guitar players more. The Toto thing with Lukather and all those guys. So
Nice.
I was all over the board in the 80s, man.
Was your
I saw Priest. I saw Iron Maiden. I saw Saxon. What is it? They did. I can't think of it anyway. I saw all the metal bands back then too. So
that's awesome. Were you're now we just throwing in there for the listeners? You were a Dean guitar fan now.
Yeah, still am. I was back
then too. So Dean all the way.
All the way.
How many do you own?
Right now, I think it's 36.
Sweet Moses. That's a lot.
36, 37. Yeah.
That's a lot of Dean guitar.
Well, okay. So my childhood, when I was growing up, I never wanted to be like everybody else. You got a minute till we go down this other
Sure.
path?
We're just
okay. So
we're free will.
When I turned 15, my dad came to us and he said, "Boys," I had two brothers. There's three of us.
Yes.
We're going to build your first car. I'm not going to buy it for you. We're going to build it. You're going to figure out what you want. We're going to go get it. We're going to build it. You can do anything you want except for a Corvette. Wouldn't let us have a vet. Youngest
Why
brother,
was that?
he didn't think they were safe. They're fiberglass.
I got you.
And he knew what it was like when he was a teenager driving hot rods.
Right.
So the youngest brother picked a 66 Mustang. Everybody had Mustangs. Everybody had Camaros. Everybody had Chevy SSs. Middle brother was kind of unique. He picked a 55 Chevy two-door sedan because he liked the one that was in American Graffiti, the movie American Graffiti.
Yeah.
And he still owns that to this day.
Oh, wow.
And I picked a 64 Ford Fairlane.
Oh, wow.
Had everything in it that the Mustang had. It was 289, 4 on the floor, past everything but a gas station. But it was different than everybody else's car. And Dean was the same way. Everybody had Strats. Everybody had Telecasters. Everybody had Les Pauls, Melody Makers. All that stuff was around. And first time I saw Dean on stage, I went, "Oh, that's what I want right there."
Do you remember what you saw?
It was Kerry Livgren of Kansas.
Oh, nice.
Was playing a Dean.
Well, I'll say this, Deans are very solid guitars. And I've got, as you know, I got a couple of custom shops. I got different and I don't have 30-something. But I got several.
Well, it's a collector at that point.
I know that. If you have a legacy of Dean guitars.
Well, so much so that we started an organization called the DOA, Dean Owners of America.
Oh, you started that?
Yeah, there was 3 or 4 of us, or maybe a dozen of us that had they were on the Dean website. They had a chat room back in the day, and we get on, and this is the early '90s.
Yeah, and
we talk about guitars. And Zelensky, the owner of the company, or the originator of the company, the guy who built the furry guitar ZZ Top had, and he built the I Can't Drive 55 guitar.
Yeah,
those were all Deans, and he would get on there with us and we'd talk, and we just started an organization about Dean owners because we're kind of fans of the company. We're not just owners; we're fans of that company.
Yeah.
So,
well, they're well-made guitars. What I was going to say is I have several, and honestly, as far as stability and continual playability and just resilience, because it doesn't matter what the guitar is. Most of the time, you're going to have, especially in Arkansas weather, you're going to have fluctuations. You're going to have warping and different things of that nature. Minor things that can be adjusted. But I'm going to tell you, that Dean dime that I've had for
the green one,
the one that I've had since 2007. I have not. It still
not
plays.
Not trouble out of it.
It still plays just as well as it did.
And that's what I would just tell everybody. It's every bit as good as a Les Paul or a Strat for half the price.
Yeah, and they're well made. They play great, and they sound great.
Yeah.
Well, moving forward, so you blurred through the 80s.
Blurred through the 80s, yep.
Okay.
Till I met Elizabeth, and I got a haircut and a real job.
Well, great. She straightened you out. Somebody needed to. So then you transferred over to, now, one of the beloved, now, so a lot of people will know this, but Hastings Books.
Music and video.
Yeah. And it says you went from Benton to Fayetteville. So is that what brought you to Fayetteville?
Yes. No, Hastings wasn't.
Okay.
So here's what happened. So Coca-Cola, I went to work for Coca-Cola, had a perfect record, but they changed ownerships. Coke USA came in and bought Frank Lyon. Frank Lyon used to own that Coke plant. And if you were there less than X date, you were gone. They just got rid of you. So here I am, recently married within 2 years, and now I don't have a job because they came in and laid us all off. Well, Elizabeth talks to me and she says, why don't you go back to college? You need to get your degree. So on the same day as my 10-year high school class reunion, I took the ACT on the same exact day to go back to college. And I enrolled at ULR, and she and I went to school there together. We graduated together here at Fayetteville, and our names on senior walk together, believe it or not.
That's awesome. How many people can say that?
Not many.
And that's cool.
So I had to have a part-time job to help pay the bills because I went full-time. I wasn't a part-timer. And started at the Hastings in Benton. Big video store. Rented a lot of videos.
It's a wonderful place. And it's
Oh, that place was fun. I love that. And there's an organization out there where it's all the old Hastings people, a Facebook page where they chat and stuff, and good people. A lot of fun. And I did that, went to ULR for about 2 years. And then Elizabeth's grandmother, who lived up here, her family's from up here, came to me because she knew I was a diehard Razorback fan. And she said, why don't you guys just move up here? And she owns a farm out in Farmington.
Oh, okay.
And between Farmington and Prairie Grove. And I've got a cottage. Y'all can live there, and I'll take care of it, and you can just go to college.
Sounds good.
So I was like, hell yeah. So we packed up and moved to Fayetteville.
That's great.
And that's how we got to Fayetteville.
That's awesome. So, number one, I miss those times. I miss those times of having a place. I talk about this all the time, and it just hurts my soul that places like Hastings, where you could go and you could see video games, you could see VHSs, DVDs, cassettes, CDs, books.
Well, CDs came out late, but for me, at the end of my tenure at Hastings.
But still, I mean, it's just, you know what I'm saying? It was such a place.
Books, music, and video.
Like the I call it the Blockbusters of the world, those type of places. I really just miss that.
Hastings had more than Blockbuster even. You know, Blockbuster just did the
Oh,
videos.
yeah.
Hastings, you could go in there and buy a sweatshirt.
Oh, and they also had like comic books and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
magazines.
It was just really entertainment central.
Games.
You could spend hours.
Board games.
Yeah, you could spend hours in it. And I always thought, man, what a great... And because when I first came to Fayetteville, it was in 2002, they had the one over there of college, near Fiesta Square.
That's the one I worked in.
Oh, nice. It's awesome.
The women's basketball coach, Mike, he worked at the Blockbuster across the street, and he and I have had a lot of stories about the competition between those two.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you transfer from that to Channel 5 cameraman, sports with Mike Irwin, while still at Hastings?
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
taken, so let me explain this. I didn't sleep much when we moved up here. Most of the time I had 2 jobs, and I was carrying between 12 and 15 hours a semester. The Hastings job was paying the bills. Going to work with Mike Irwin was by accident, actually. Elizabeth is Mike's niece.
Okay.
And he and I always got along by marriage,
Yeah.
And he and I always got along. So I started going to football practice with him, and he said, well, and I had a knack for catching things. Like there was an injured player one time, and his photographer didn't catch it. And I was like, dude, you need to get video of that guy. He's hurt. That's a news story. And by accident, he had it. And Mike liked the fact that I knew.
You saw the opportunity.
Yeah. And so he taught me how to shoot. He taught me what was important, what wasn't important, what questions to ask.
Did you enjoy that job?
Oh, I loved it. Are you kidding me? Loved every minute.
I figured.
Editing tape, it was a lot of fun.
Editing tape. So how did you edit the tape?
Back then, it was all shot on beta. All the
I figured.
cameras were beta cams.
So you had to splice and
No splicing. There was a video edit bay where you just put in a blank and then you just edit it all together.
You catch it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a little more high tech than splicing.
Well, see, I've heard about, I've dealt with people that have done stuff both in video and audio and utilizing reel to reel and stuff like that, and like the old school ways, and it's
So
Nothing like.
all in all, the point here is that these jobs all lead to each other.
Oh, yeah.
Because if it wasn't for Mike, I wouldn't own my store right now.
Well, that's what we're getting at. So we're leading up to this because I'm seeing it's really wild. And that's I started to, honestly, Robert, when you sent me this, it's like, dude, this is overkill.
Yeah.
But I could see there's an interesting pathway here. And so that's what I wanted to talk about. I'm not trying to hammer you on every last detail, but I just find it so fascinating because I was like, good Lord, this guy's been around the block.
Once or twice.
So then you transfer. It says here, while still at Hastings and Channel 5 KFSM, you started working at Hog Heaven, and when you transferred to Hog Heaven full-time and also the Razorback shop in the student union.
Okay, so let me work all that out for you.
Okay.
I worked at Hastings, and then I did the thing with Irwin, and I started out with Irwin as an unpaid intern. I wasn't getting paid. So the Hastings job was paying my gas.
So you were doing the Irwin for
nothing.
for love.
Yeah.
You just love doing it.
Well, I go to football practice, go in the locker room, cover the games. I mean, growing up, my parents would not allow me. They were of a religious type. They would not allow me to play sports or do all this stuff. So in high school, I joined band so I can go to the games.
Gotcha.
I wanted to go to football games, and I love music.
What instrument did you play?
Trumpet.
Yes.
So I joined band because I was in elementary school at Baseline Elementary at Little Rock, and the Razorback band was there playing because we're all going into junior high. And since I couldn't play sports because my parents wouldn't allow it, saw the opportunity to join band so that I could go to the games.
That's awesome. You found a way.
Yeah. So anyway, back up here. So I'd work at Hastings on the times where I didn't have a class and there wasn't a game. And then I'd get out of class in time to go catch up with Mike and go to practice and shoot practice and do the editing and everything to air. And then like basketball, we do live shots from Bud Walton Arena at night.
What time frame was this?
The Irwin thing started in about 92.
What about the basketball?
It's still going on all the way through 93, 94.
Dude, so I was there for the, oh man,
yeah,
that's great.
In fact, all the Mike Irwin
Dream team.
Things were different back then. Nowadays, everybody takes the feed from the university. They have internet, and you don't do video camera. Well, they do, but anyway, the university back then didn't have the ability to do all that production stuff. So what they did was that they contracted out to AFSM to shoot all the video, all the interviews, all the stuff, and then put it on satellite for everybody across the nation to download. In other words, there'd be a window where Irwin would pop in a tape and hit the satellite, and ABC, CBS, NBC, ESPN would download the video and the interviews that he would do. So one of the coolest things was Arkansas was at the top. I mean, Bud Walton was at its top. And I'm in the media room waiting to go out to shoot the game. And all the ESPN guys, Dick Vitale was there.
That's awesome.
And so he goes, I got to go work, guys. And he leaves and he goes out to his desk, and I'm sitting there watching ESPN, and the video that he's talking about was video I shot.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
I shot all that video because every highlight that you saw on all those networks came from us. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome. What a piece of history.
It was fun.
And for a Hogs fan such as yourself, that's got to be pretty epic.
Side note, my mother, I was the only one in my house that would watch football. Okay, I had a little brother, he'd watch some. But nobody would sit in the game, watch a game with me. I would yell and scream and throw things and I was into the game. So my mother's watching the game one night down in Benton, and every time the camera would come down to this end of the court, she could see me sitting down there with my camera shooting video because I sat where the band director stood.
Yeah.
And she calls me the next day and she goes, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, why?" She goes, "That was a tight game." I said, "Yeah, it was. It was a nail biter. We won it, but it was a real nail biter." She goes, "You didn't do anything. You didn't hardly move." Are you sure you're okay? I said, "Mom, I'm working in the media. You can't cheer. You're not allowed to be a fan.
You just have to internalize it."
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so you worked at Hog, so you transitioned to Hog Heaven full time, and then you also worked at the Razorback shop in the student union. What time frame is this?
This would have been 94.
Okay.
Because now clarity is starting to happen because I know the dates now. So we were shooting. Arkansas just won the national championship in basketball, and I was there shooting something that was going on in the building, and I happened to get on the elevator with Dawn White. Now, Dawn's dad played for Frank Broyles back in the 64 on that 64 team. Dawn also was the manager of the Hog Heaven store in Bud Walton at that time, and it was brand new. I mean, the building didn't even open until 93, and this was that same year. And I said, man, I bet you're busy now. And we got to talking, and she needs some help. I said, well, I'm a business major, and I need an extra 1 credit hour. Because, you got these credits that you have to do that.
Right.
I said, how about I intern for you? Well, she said, absolutely. So I did the internship over that summer when it was kind of slow in the sports area. All we did was high school baseball and that kind of, or t-ball and stuff like that. And so I wasn't that busy with Irwin, but I would spend my time at Hog Heaven and going to summer school. And I had quit the job at Hastings at this point because there's not enough hours in the day.
Right.
And when that internship ended, they asked me to stay on and kind of be her assistant or help with the stores, hang around and still work there. So I did that. But I told them, I said, I'm going to keep the TV job because that gets me in the games. I can go to the games. That's my connection. So because of the Channel 5 job, I met Dawn. And because of Dawn, she taught me everything I needed to know about how to run a store like that. Hands-on, plus the college and professors and all were very knowledgeable too. But that's how I got into Hog Heaven. Well, when I got back from the Final Four in 95, Dawn had taken a job. That's one of your local companies up here, but so I'm not going to mention it. She had left when I came back, and the manager asked me, said, would you manage Hog Heaven? You stay on, because I was about to graduate. This was in 95. And Elizabeth and I walked in graduation together, and her name's on senior walk together, and we graduated. It was awesome being your wife.
Yeah, right there.
So I took on the race.
Were y'all called back to back, I can only assume?
Do what?
Were y'all called back to back, I can only assume?
Yes.
So
she went first.
She went first, then you're right behind her.
Yep.
That's awesome.
It was cool.
That's cool.
And I got to tell on you, Elizabeth, if you're watching this. So when they pick your name to go on senior walk, her maiden name was Cunningham. So she said her name is Elizabeth Cunningham Mann, and it's about that long.
Yeah,
it's the whitest name on senior walk. She did that on purpose. She used her maiden name as her middle name. Anyway,
that's awesome.
So I took over the Hog Heaven store, graduated in 95, went full time. And then the lady, another lady who helped me learn quite a bit about the business, she was very helpful too. Debbie Wood is her name. She still works at the university, but in a different capacity. She left the Razorback shop. She was in charge of the Razorback shop. So the bookstore ran both of them. And I just got brought in to run the Razorback shop too. So.
Now, let's stop right there. I know that's got to be cool, number one, being the diehard Razorback fan that you are. But I have been told that you have been somewhat influential in some of the, doing a little digging in some of the, we'll just say marketing messages to a degree. So is it true that you are the originator of Fear the Tusk?
Yes, that is true. That's my one claim to fame.
That's your one claim to fame.
Fear the Tusk was mine.
You're the guy that came up with Fear the Tusk. So let's talk about that just for a second, because that's interesting. Razorback history.
Now there was a lot of other things I did too, but Fear the Tusk was by far.
That's the pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
So how did that come about?
So we're have to jump time because it was the Hog Heaven stuff and the Razorback shop, and then we had to move. We moved to Florida.
Oh, so you went to Florida. So let's stop. That's a nail biter for a second. Let's come back.
Fear the Tusk is coming.
Okay, so you went to Florida for a short time, and you ran Gator Gear. So real quick, why'd you go to Florida?
Elizabeth, she had went to work for a oil company, and they were located here in Fayetteville.
Makes sense. And then they needed.
She's an accountant, and she's a very good accountant. She runs the back office at the store, and I run the sales floor.
Gotcha.
So it's a
dynamic duo.
Yep,
perfect.
So it was either she moves to Colorado, finds a new job, or I look for another job because I wasn't getting paid a whole lot of money. Money wasn't the reason I was doing all this.
Gotcha.
And the company offered me, when the company we were working for, or I was working for, offered me 3 stores. They offered me Michigan State. They offered me Nebraska, because they used to send me all over the country to teach other people how to do what I do. And then they offered me Florida State. Well, Elizabeth said no to Michigan State. I'm not moving to Michigan.
Right.
And we took the trip and visited Lincoln, Nebraska. And I like Lincoln, Nebraska. It's a really nice town. But you got Florida.
Yeah,
I mean, come on. Nebraska or Florida.
Come on now. Yeah.
So the day before we were supposed to take the trip to see Florida State and visit their University of Florida came open. They decided they had a shift in management there, and they wanted me to go to Florida instead of Florida State. And I loved it because it's SEC. So I spent 3 years at the University of Florida. And then one day, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, do you want me to jump into how I came back?
That was it. That's where I was going.
So one day Arkansas is down there playing Florida in a basketball game. So I pick up the phone and I call Donita. Now Donita was Frank's.
Yeah, I got the pleasure of meeting her back in my banking days. She was a wonderful woman.
I love her to death.
So
she's the reason we're back.
My claim to the Razorbacks years ago was one of the gentlemen that I worked for. I worked for a smaller bank, and he was best friends with Frank Broyles, and he was also he was on the board too.
Wasn't Fred Borsinger, was it?
Huh?
No, never mind. Fred Borsinger.
No. I won't mention the guy's name.
Was he on the board of trustees?
He was on the bank board.
Oh, the bank board. Okay.
Yeah. But so we did several loans for him, and this was before the stadium renovation, but I will say, if you've never been into the coach's room, like the coach's table where
I've been in there.
Oh, dude, it was something else. Like the first time I went in there, it was kind of.
You're talking about the new facility, not the south end zone.
No, I was talking about the old facility. Old facility when Frank Broyles was at the helm.
Okay.
That was something else, because it was nothing but like the finest wood, gorgeous tables, and
if you're talking about Frank's office, there's golf balls all over the floor too.
Oh man, it was insanity. It was insanity. I never forget though. He was always he was something else. He was so nice to me. But I sat there, and it was really weird watching this icon of Arkansas history, like sign documents and having to explain stuff to him and that kind of thing. But I'll never forget, during the board meetings, he would show up. And now, don't get me wrong, I'm not above servitude at all. I always try to take care of if I can. But I have to tell this quick one because it's just popped in my head. He'd show up for board meetings. We always did board meetings later in the evening. I don't know. That's just how we always did them. And he'd come in first thing. I said, Coach. He wanted me to call him Coach.
Everybody called him Coach.
Right. He said, Coach. I said, what can I get you? And he said, Matt, I'm fine. I'll be all right. And I knew better, because every time we'd sit down, now don't get me wrong, and again, I'm not above servitude, but he would always, what I'd call, pee on me. Not literally pee on me, but treat me like a peon. Yeah. And that was bad. That sounded really bad. He'd always pee on me. No, that's horrible. But he'd always treat me like it, not unintentionally. Right. But like, I'd ask him, you need anything? I'd always make sure everybody had everything they need before we started that board meeting. 2 seconds into the board meeting, Matt, would you mind getting me a water? And I'd be like, and so I'd go get water. But he was always, thank you so much. Take care of me. Nice, great guy. Always great to me anyways.
He's that way with everybody. Yeah. Did you realize that the whole time he was here, his name was listed in the phone book?
That's crazy.
Yeah, you remember phone books.
Oh, yeah.
His name, he never had an unlisted
Never
phone
unlisted
number.
number.
His personal home phone was in the phone book.
Wow. That's
never had an unlisted number.
That's awesome. I've got several signed footballs from him too. I always made sure to get some signed footballs.
I got a book. He wrote a book in the 70s. And I walked into his office one day about something, and he's sitting there signing these books. And Robert, you have one of these books? I said, no, sir, I don't. Someday I'm going to get one. Mm-hmm. Hang on. Here you go. He gives it to me.
That's awesome. Great guy.
Yeah, I love him.
Fond memories. So let's get back to the you moved back from Florida.
Well, how I moved back is interesting.
All right, let's do it
real quick.
Okay.
I called Donita to get tickets to the Florida game, and because I didn't want to sit in the Gator section. My Nike rep had tickets, and I could get tickets anytime I wanted to go. But I wanted to sit with my buddies from Arkansas. I wanted to be in the Razorback section. Of course, we lost that game, but different story. She said, "Robert, it's interesting you called. Can I call you back here in a few minutes?" I said, "Sure." So I go on about my business, and I'm in my office. I run out on the sales floor, do some stuff, and get paged to come pick up phone. Donita, she said, "Coach Broyles would like to talk to you. Do you have a moment?" And I'm like, "No, Donita, I don't have a moment to talk to Coach. Of course I can talk to Coach Broyles." He gets on the phone and he says, "Robert." I said, yes, sir." He goes, "We're changing management of our store. You ready to come back to Arkansas?" And I said, "Yes." And before I got off the phone conversation, I think Elizabeth already had the house packed up. We were ready to come back to Fayetteville. We were ready to come back home. And that's how we moved back to Fayetteville.
That's fantastic. Okay. So let's talk about the fear of the tusk. We're going to have to, because there's other things we want to. We've only got a little bit of time left.
Yeah, a little bit of time.
Ticking down. But this is great. This is great.
Quickly, the company I came back to work for lost the business. They screwed the pooch, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I'm in Coach Broyles' office, and he asked me, or I tell him, he asked me, "So who are we going to get to run the store?" Because he had just fired him. And I said, "Coach, I don't know, but I don't have a job right now. So you just fired the company that was running it. So I'll stay on and I'll help you get whatever you want to do." He said, "No, you just going to come and work for me." So I went to work for Coach Broyles. Well, the company had to be out July the 5th. Okay. He fired him at the end of June, and he gave him 2 weeks to get out. So when he did that, all we had left was the carpet and the slat wall.
Oh, wow.
That was it. And this is in July. Now, you understand football stadiums and football games don't happen on game day. You start on game day. You start merchandising and getting it ready in July. Well, we had nothing. I didn't even have cash registers. I didn't even have hangers to put clothes on. I didn't have anything.
Oh, wow.
Literally, walls, floor, slat wall. That was it. So I spent the next 2 weeks across the hall from Coach Broyles writing orders for merchandise and fixturing and all that kind of stuff. And I had a lady in there who was a T-shirt company, and they loved me because I was spending money like crazy. These reps.
Yeah, man, they really.
I think a couple of them made salesmen a year.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Because I had to fill a football stadium.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I'm punch drunk because I'd been doing it from 6 a.m. and it's about 8 o'clock at night, and we didn't take lunch. We just worked straight through. And she says, "Is there anything else you need?" And I flipped the page and I saw this shirt for Maryland, and it said, "Fear the Turtle." And I started laughing, and she said, "What?" I said, why should you be afraid of a turtle? You can't outrun a turtle. It'd be kind of funny. So we can do that for Arkansas. We can say, "Fear the Razorback, fear the hog." Or No. If that hog is charging at you, there's only one thing you're afraid of, and that's the tusk. And that's the name of our mascot. I said, "So let's do Fear the Tusk." And she said, "You sure about that?" I said, "Yeah, let's do Fear the Tusk." And that's how it was born.
That's awesome.
And
that's awesome.
Never mind. There's more to it that went down the road, but we don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But that's how it was born, and we sold the crap out of that shirt.
I bet you did. I mean, I remember when it first. I remember seeing those shirts start to appear. You know,
the craziest story is I had a guy walk in the store one day, boots, cowboy hat. I mean, T-shirt. "I heard you're the guy that skull." The round thing on his, it looked like he had it, but he didn't. And he looks at me and goes, "I heard you're the guy that came up with Fear the Tusk." I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "I bet you ain't seen one of these." And he pulls up his sleeve, and he had this tattoo that looked like it was a prison tattoo of the god-awfulest hog you've ever seen in your life. And underneath it said, "Fear the Tusk." And I said, "You win."
That's awesome. That's crazy. So You've done a few other jobs since then, but you decided that for the sake of time, we're going to skip through that. Okay. So in 2016, and I remember this when this was going on, you were about to make this jump. you got into the stadium. You started the Stadium Shop. Now, where's the Stadium Shop located?
989 South Razorback Road, and I got to give Elizabeth credit for it because we had gone to the Liberty Bowl, and she knew I was miserable what I was doing. I'd left the athletic department because we had change in leadership, and she just looks at me one day. She said, "Why don't you just start your own store? Why don't you just open your own store?" And on the way back from another long day of doing something I really hated doing, I called her and said, "How serious are you?" And this is in January of 2016. And she said, "I'm dead serious." I said, "Okay, let's do it." And by the time I got home, she already had the LLC drawn up and everything was in motion.
That's fantastic.
And we opened it the last Monday of August of 2016. So we put another store together and nothing flat.
Just in time.
Yeah.
So what does the Stadium Shop sell, Robert? Now I'm sure people have a good indication what the Stadium Shop sells, but I just for those that are listening, every time I go in there, I'm always amazed because I've never seen in one spot so much Razorback apparel, but what and not just apparel, but everything you can think of. So what do you guys sell? I mean, you guys have like a pool table. You guys have the standards.
Yeah.
What do you got in there?
But everything, man cave, fan cave stuff, glassware, drinkware, sweatshirts, T-shirts, kids' clothes, women's stuff, Tommy Bahama type shirts in Tommy Bahama, Champion, Cutter and Buck, Nike, obviously, just a little bit of everything, just whatever a hog fan wants. I even have a couch. We can order you a couch or a love seat or recliners.
That's awesome.
Floor covers, wall covers, you name it.
It's nothing but Razorback. If
it's got a hog on it, I can get it.
Right. Well, if it's anybody that's never been there, like I said, it's always such a great experience to go in there because there's always something new. You guys do a great job with your buying. You really do.
Thank you.
And every now and then you'll run into somebody that doesn't, know where you guys are at. And I'm like, you got to go there.
Nor next to Baumwalker Stadium.
Yeah, you're just a jump, hop, and a skip from the U of A. So let's switch gears on this a little bit. So you're obviously a gigantic Hogs fan. I do want to throw this out there, so I'm going to surprise you a little bit, Robert. Now, these are probably child's play questions, but I know that you're a gigantic
horrible
fan,
name,
gigantic fan of the Razorbacks. So I thought I would ask a few loaded questions. Let's see if I can stump you. Now, me and some of my fellow Hog fans put together some questions. So I can't speak to. I'm not the diehard. This is probably child's play for you. So let's see. Okay, let's make it interesting. So the Arkansas Razorbacks formerly went by this name before the student body voted to change it to change the mascot in 1910. What was this mascot?
It was the Cardinal. Okay, so let me explain. It's not the bird.
All right, we're running out on time, so don't make it a long one.
I know we are. It was the Cardinal, and it was the color Cardinal. In that changed when Hugo Besdale got off the train down on Dixon Street, right next to George's. There's a plaque there commemorating how it happened, and he made the comment that Arkansas played like a wild band of Razorbacks, and the student body then voted to change it to the Razorbacks. We were the Cardinal, which everybody says it's the bird, but I'm telling you, I got it straight from the horse's mouth in Frank's office that it was the color, not the bird.
That's awesome. Okay. The all-century team includes a father and son. Who are the father and son of this all-century team?
All-century team is 1994. That would have been Billy Ray Smith Sr. and Billy Ray Smith Jr.
That's correct. What were their positions?
One played defense. Senior played defensive line, and I think Junior played linebacker. Oh, not defensive line, linebacker or something like that.
All right, that is correct. So, why was the basketball court, cheerleader outfits, and band uniforms scarlet red, and not our darker cardinal red throughout the 70s and 80s? Okay,
so I got this from Jean Nail, who was in charge of the cheerleaders. I know this for a fact.
Okay.
So she told me that, and back then the TVs weren't HD.
Okay.
And the dark red didn't show up on TV very well. They looked really dark. And the bright red looked better on TV. So the court was painted bright red. The cheerleaders wore bright red. The band wore bright red because the TVs, it looked better on color TV back then.
That is correct. The answer that I have is scarlet red, Georgia red looked better on the older color TVs. It wasn't until HD TV became a thing that they made the change to our real color.
Yeah, and I was around when that change happened because we had to redo the cheerleader outfits.
All right. I'm going to give you one more.
Okay.
You're so far so good.
2 for 2.
No, that's 3 for 3.
3 for 3.
3 for 3. Okay. Here's a tough one. At least I think it is. Only 2 jersey numbers have been retired. What are they?
12 and 77.
That is correct. Which players wore them to earn this honor?
Well, one is Brandon Burlsworth. We know 77. That's everybody pretty much knows that one. A lot of people think that Steve Little was the reason 12 was retired, but it wasn't. It was it wasn't Lance Allworth. It was Clyde Smackover Scott.
That is correct.
It was originally retired for Clyde Scott, and when they wanted Steve so bad, he said he wanted 12 or he wouldn't come, so they got Clyde to approve 12 for him to use it, and then after he graduated, they re-retired it for Clyde Scott.
Well, once again, Mr. Mann, you have proven yourself to be a great Razorback fan, and Razorback blood flows through the Mann family. I know because I've had the pleasure of being acquainted with and a friend of your son, and fantastic young man and drummer. And he is when he was in school, he seems like he was in every game. You could see him because he was
down front in the student section every game, and it got to be so bad that on days where he didn't make it on TV, somebody would call me and ask me if he was sick or if he was okay because they didn't see him at the game.
Yeah, he was always decked out.
He was always down front.
What a great rep for the family business, huh?
Yeah, we all 3 graduated from Arkansas.
That's great.
Elizabeth's brother was a pitcher for Arkansas back in the.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was Scott Cunningham. He was a right-handed pitcher, I think 93, 94, 95, somewhere in that area. And it's family affair.
That's
awesome. Elizabeth and I, myself, and Matthew, we all run the place together. So I mean, how cool is it that when we play, I'm on the stage with my wife, and I look to the back. There's my son playing the drums, and then I get to work with him every day too.
Yeah,
I'm blessed.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You also have a really cool band. What's the name of the band?
Oh, Raised on Radio.
Raised on Radio. Been there several times. Me and several friends have gone out to Georgia's Majestic. What kind of music do you play?
80s, non-stop 80s pop.
That's it.
That's the one. I wonder where I got that idea.
You do have non-stop 80s pop, and you're always a pleasure. So if you get a chance to see Robert, go check out their band. It is Raised on Radio is a good time. We've gone to a few shows, and the first one, let's just face the facts when it comes to music. I know you guys are great musicians, but whenever somebody says, hey, when you talk to your friends, hey, why don't you come out with us? We're going to go see my friend. He's in a band. Mm-hmm. What's the first thing that goes through your head? What are we getting into?
Yeah, what are we about to get into?
But I would tell you, the first time, I've seen you several times, but the first time I took my friends out, it was 6 of us, and we just had a freaking absolute blast. Like, they still talk about what a great time we had.
That was at George's?
Yeah, it was at George's.
In the back room?
Yeah, that was a good one.
Well, I mean,
it's just tough. You can't go wrong with 80s music, and you guys perform it so well.
Well, the stuff we do is, she's a singer, and she can hit the notes for Journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got to play Journey and all that, Pat Benatar and Joan Jett and the Blondie, and just everybody knows the songs we play.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll say that there's no drag in any of the songs, and I will give you guys some props. I mean, you guys play them solidly.
Thank you.
There's a There's no, and you guys transition well. There's no just awkward. I hate when bands awkward
I hate
sit
that too.
around. You know, come on, just keep playing, man.
Or they tell a joke that nobody else in the room gets.
Right.
Somebody on the stage gets it, but nobody.
Right. But you guys do good. Great band. So go see Raised on Radio.
Raised on Radio.
And then more importantly, give shout out to Robert. Years and years what is it? Am I doing the math correct? Are you on year 9, right?
Of the store?
Yeah.
We're in the middle of 8.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's crazy. I remember when you
made it through
opened.
COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Made
I
it
remember
through
those
COVID.
times. Everybody was like, what's going to happen?
I thought we were dead. I mean,
Yeah. That was a crazy time. We ain't got time to get up in that one.
I know.
But here's what I'll say. You guys go by and see if you're a Razorback fan, if you're a true Razorback fan, and you want just an awesome experience. If you've never been to the Stadium Shoppe, at least go once. I guarantee you'll want to go back because there's always something cool. And it's so close to the stadium. I can't tell you how many times I was like, I want to, you want that new piece. And you guys are so convenient just to go by. Great prices, great stuff. So go by and see Robert and the family.
The family, yes.
At the
And
Stadium
friends.
Shoppe.
Even the people that work there that aren't.
Yeah, you got. I've never met a bad
extended
employee.
family.
I've never met a bad employee.
And Brian, our bass player, he works there too.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. There you go. Well, go check him out. And Robert, thanks for sharing your story and thanks for being on here. And I hope you'll come on again. Next time we need to talk music. So here's what we're going to do.
Okay.
Is we've had a heavy metal.
I saw that one. Yeah.
We've had a heavy metal podcast. And I like to do stuff like that. It's kind of different. I want to have an 80s discussion.
Okay.
So I hope you'll come back at least.
Well, the heavy metal stuff was good too. The Judas Priest, that was a
Okay.
great time period for metal too.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'll never. 80s as a whole. You're not really going to go wrong. Even the R&B of the 80s and the country music of the 80s and the pop of the 80s and the heavy metal of the 80s. It was just a great time for music expansion. But that's for another podcast. Robert Mann, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, man.
Always, brother.
I'm sorry if it bored you to tears.
You didn't bore me to tears. We had a great time. All right. Thanks, guys.
See you.